Natural Niche, the alternative guy and gal.
When you look at the three major religions of the world, you're talking about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All of those religions copied and plagiarized concepts from the spiritual system of ancient Kemet. And for instance, with Judaism, they teach the belief in one God. Akhenaten was a pharaoh during the 18th dynasty who's credited with beginning the first monotheistic religion. And if you study religion and if you study history, what you'll find out is that in religion, what they do is they personify the energies, laws, and principles of the universe. You know what I'm saying? So not to get off subject, that's another whole story when I'm talking about religion. But what I'm trying to nail is that everything that we do today has somehow can somehow be related to what the ancient Egyptians created. So they created all the arts, they created all the sciences. They were the first ones to set up a government system with the figurehead. Instead of having a president, they had a pharaoh. Instead of having advisors and governors, they had high priests. And the high priests went to school for 40 years. They were indoctrinated in school at 7 years, and they went to school for 40 years, graduated at 47. And when they graduated, they were masters in all the sciences and all the arts. And their job was to serve the pharaoh and serve the people. Mm-hmm. And so all of this knowledge, they were taught in the temples, which are somewhat equivalent to our universities, but they're much more advanced. And this was a repository of information. This is where they taught all of the students. And this is another thing. When we go to school and college, they teach us that all of the Greek philosophers gave us all of this knowledge. Every one of the Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, every last one of them studied in the Karnak Temple in ancient Egypt. Wow. For up to 20 years. Mm-hmm. And for thousands of years, the Kemetology would not allow any foreigner to come to their schools, to include Greeks. Wow. When Greeks came into Egypt in 300 BC, that's when they started going. When they were allowed to go to the Egyptian temples to study. So this is what they learned about astronomy, chemistry, science, everything. So to answer your question, why is it so important? Because they laid the blueprints of civilizations, just as I said in my bio. And these were Black African people. So there's a lot of debate about whether Egyptians were Black or whether they was from the Mediterranean. You got to remember that Egypt is on the continent of Africa. Right. There were no Europeans in Africa when the pyramids were built. There were no Mediterraneans. There was no other people on the continent of Africa but Africans. And as time went on, you had different invaders who came into Africa. And that's when the population started getting mixed. And so the people that presently occupy Egypt today are Arabs. They came from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. And during the spread of Islam, can you hear me? I see like a little internet unstable. Anyway, they came into Egypt almost 4,000 years after the civilization of Egypt began. Wow. In the mid 600s. As a matter of fact, they came in around 640, 650 AD. Mm-hmm. This is 300 years after Christianity was created. Right. And by that time, you had 4 or 5 different foreign countries who had come into Egypt as invaders. The Hyksos, which are from modern day Israel, Canaan, places like that. You had the Hittites, which were from Turkey. And then you had other groups of European stock who came into Egypt, but the final ones were the modern day Egyptians now. And when Islam was created in the mid 600s, they started spreading Islam first to Turkey, then they came around to Egypt, Then they started occupying all of the northern countries in North Africa, to include Morocco, Libya, all of those countries in Northern Africa. What you'll notice is they all are Muslim countries, and they all border the Mediterranean Sea. And the reason is it was easy for them to navigate close to the shore, and they were able to easier conquer those lands. And then when you come to sub-Saharan Africa, what you'll find is that most of the countries down here are Christian, because this is when the Europeans got involved in the slave trade. And so they left their footprint as Christianity. So you got different Africans. Some Africans are speaking French, some are speaking British, some are speaking German. So in the late 1800s, I forget the exact year, but they had a conference in Berlin where they carved up Africa, and everyone who was involved in the slave trade, all of the European countries that were involved in the slave trade, they said, you take this country, I'm gonna take this country, I'm gonna take this country. Yeah. That's how Africa was carved up.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 of his story Debunked with Timothy Garnes and the Alternative Guy. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content. Click on the logo in the center to subscribe and stay updated with our latest uploads.